The webinar today is part of our 1705 cooperative agreement with the CDC to scale the National Diabetes Prevention Program in underserved areas of Oregon, New Mexico, and Utah. So during today's webinar, we will be talking about the burden of diabetes among Latino, Latinx, and Hispanic communities in New Mexico, Oregon, and Utah. We'll be talking about strategies for engaging these communities in lifestyle change programs and culturally responsive coaching techniques that meet the diverse needs of these communities. So now I'd like to introduce our presenter, Sandra Hernandez with Familias and Accion, based out of Portland, Oregon. Sandra has worked with Latino communities for over 12 years, and she is a certified diabetes prevention program lifestyle coach, a psychologist, a certified doula, as well as a master trainer for the Stanford self-management education programs. All right, Sandra, I'm going to hand it to you, and I'm going to put it in front of you.
Okay. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being there. Gracias por venir, por participar. Thank you. So, Familias en Acción was founded in 1998 in response to the need for a culturally specific organization to promote the health of Latino, Latinx, and Hispanic populations. In Familias, well, we have three main programs, patient health navigation and chronic disease support group. These are really based in Portland, but we work in few counties like Clackamas and Washington County and, you know, the metropolitan area. Health education, community programs, and Latino Health Equity Conference. Also offering all these counties, and cultural competence training for health professionals serving Latinos. This is one of the, you know, really focused to palliative care of, you know, health professionals working with the Latino population. And Familias is based in Portland, but Oregon serving communities in several counties. Okay, so I do here. Just go, yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, here's something new that I'd like to really engage you all in thinking together with me about why we are talking regard to Latino, Latinx, and Hispanic populations. So let's see a couple of paragraphs that I put here to help you understand from where I'm coming from. It is difficult really to label a nation or culture with one term, such as Hispanic or Latinos, as the ethnicities, customs, traditions, and art forms, music, literature, dress, culture, cuisine, and others vary greatly by country and region. On the other hand, Hispanic is also a term created during the ancient Roman Hispania to denominate people from Iberian Peninsula. More recently, in the United States, academics and government entities began to use Hispanics to refer to the populations of immigrants and their descendants living in the United States. Something else that I want to share with you. Then Latinx, I don't know how many of you have seen before, but it's a term coined in academia to secure that all gender identities are included, rather than the Latino, Latina binary form. However, the Latinx term to refer to groups of Latino and or Hispanic populations living in the United States is not acknowledged worldwide, even, you know, nationwide. Nevertheless, I study by the Pew Research Center, the majority, so 51% of Hispanic and or Latino Americans prefer to identify with their family's country of origin, such as Colombians, Brazilians, Cuban, okay, Mexicans, whoever would be, while only 25 prefer the term Hispanic or Latino. So it seems that there is really a identity to our countries of origin. For instance, I am from Brazil, in case you find strange my accent. So just come back in there. Anybody has any comment, like how do you feel about these points when I say this? Any comment right away that will be important for me to continue on? You can write quickly in the chat, please. No? Okay, so let's continue, and then we will be, we'll have some time to discuss this later as well. So how about, let's talk quickly about acculturation versus cultures, traditions. So as we know, we come to our country, this country, from our Latino or Hispanic countries with our own cultures, but then we face a loss of, you know, the language, then the culture of the place, or even the states, right? We know that's quite different here in the US comparison to our countries. So every person individually has to go to a process of acculturation, which is really receiving the new culture and kind of substituting partially, or some people even go completely substituting their own cultures from their countries. Then we can say there is a kind of identity change in certain ways. Also, formal education and socioeconomic status, those are two big things that also bring some differentiation, sorry, between or among the different communities and people that are participating in our DPP cohorts, right? Then occupation, yes, we know people are different works and professions. They, you know, might be just janitors or other occupations they have. They might be people, even, you know, teachers, all different places. And that's something that also makes a difference. And living place is also a huge, big thing. We know, depends of the county that we live. Here in Oregon is so clear the difference between Washington County to Multnomah County, the biggest, largest ones, and as much as probably would be in Nevada, Utah, and New Mexico. Then race, ethnicity, right? And also age, gender, family position. All of those things, again, are there influencing people's feelings and perceptions when they are working together in a cohort of DPP cohort. And of course, language and culture. So the culture is really general, but everyone's culture. Even I would say myself, you know, that a person in a family, we also have a different culture from other families, right? Even though we might be Mexicans or Brazilians or Americans, whatever is our culture. And language, we cannot even say, right, is huge, big thing, because dialectics are also there. And me here want also to acknowledge the differences of dialects with the indigenous people as well, which is huge for us. Here in Oregon, we see this very clear in many communities, including Marion counties, is huge. Great. So then coming back to Latino, Latinx, and Hispanic participants, like now, sorry, go really into side of the DPP cohort. Why we are bringing all this at the beginning of this conversation today? It's really, I want to ask you all, how would you address the richness of Latino, Latinx, and Hispanic cultures, language, values, and worldviews, including religion, of course, inside of your DPP cohort? Let's think together for, you know, a few seconds. If you have any comment, how do you feel? How do you address when you are in your own cohort? Anybody there want to make any comments? Which population? We have no answer for everybody because we cannot even also use one term. What we are proposing here is that we should consider when we start a cohort, like say, let's think in our zero session, when we are there is already a moment to find, Lavinia and everybody, how people are identifying themselves. If you say the Hispanic, you are going to know if people like the term or not. You can even ask, so how you guys really identify yourselves, more Latino or Hispanic? Ask this, ask, don't be afraid, because it's better if we ask and Latinx as well, which is a new term for everyone, even here in Oregon, right? But ask anybody here who identifies yourself as a Latinx person, let them talk for themselves. And then, you know what? We write down, oh, this person here who might come to my cohort, I know already, prefers to be identified with Latinx or Latino or Hispanic, right? Makes sense, Lavinia? I hope so. It's hard, but that's the only way we can do this now. Yes, thank you, Rebecca, for bringing this. We have a long discussion before while we were creating this, right, Tracy, Maria, and our colleagues over there in New Mexico. And I really thank them for bringing this, which is a very important thing. Yes, we know, and that's probably you're going to find more Hispanic or identity. However, we are encouraging you today through this conversation that we should start asking, anybody here identify yourself as a Latino or Latin American person? And again, if you feel comfortable, bring the term Latinx as much as you understand it. Yeah. Okay, so let's keep going, and we still will have some time to discuss more later in at the end, right, Tracy? Okay, good. So just completing this whole thing, the NDPP certified lifestyle coach are the authority, remember this, inside of a cohort, a role model for participants. Coach should be aware of the diversity of cultures, languages, dialectics, family, and community values. And of course, this is for all other cultures, or I mean, from other countries, not just Latinos, but for everyone. This is our role as a lifestyle coach, right? And one thing more, the cultural competent lifestyle coach as a Latino, Latinx, or Hispanic person from Mexico, Brazil, like I said, I am from Brazil, Peru, Colombia, Cuba, Latin American, or should encourage participants to share the different eating habits, worldviews, and forms of education to enrich and be respectful to others' cultures within a cohort. Why I brought this, and I really would like you guys think throughout as we are going this conversation today, that is really our responsibility, you know, really commitment we should have with the cultural aspects of the program, how we would make sure everyone, you know, when we are the topic talking about, oh, what do you eat? You know, what is your habits? Can you share yours? And then we know, like in one of the cohorts we had, you know, several Mexican people talking about their habits. However, we do have also Colombians, and we also have Cubans. And then they were like, oh my gosh, you're talking about, licuado. No, what is licuado? So that's his mood, okay? But licuado was different. It was a batido for somebody from, I can't recall if it was Mexico or from Cuba. Anyways, what I want to say is give time to different people. Remember, you have to know your participants before you start a cohort. Don't do this, try to do this later, because that will be hard for you, and you feel that you might find out that some people feel that they're not being welcomed inside of the cohort. We want to be really more you know, open to everyone. Now we are going to have some discussion regarding with the data, and I have to have
Yes, and Maria, can you move the chat in a little so I can just make sure I can see? Great, okay. Thank you so much for kicking us off there with that, Sandra. And we do know that we are trying something new here by doing this webinar across 3 different states that are all very different. And so our hope today is that there will be some strategies and ideas that you can take away with you, and but really know that you are the authority on your local community and the terms that will be best for your community. So I'm going to move fairly quickly through the data, but we did want to take a moment to share a little bit of data with you all about the burden of diabetes and prediabetes before we jump back into more of the content that Sandra has for you today. As I'm sure many people on the call are already aware, about a third of the adult population in the United States has prediabetes, and most of them, 9 out of 10, don't know that they have it. So I did not include a lot of detailed data on that level, as I figured today's audience may already have some of that basic understanding, but we did want to spend a little bit of time diving a little bit deeper into the data for each state on a couple of items. I wanted to level set before I show you the data that each state has a different data source that's best for them, and so this data is not comparable across states. So I did want to share that. We did indicate the source at the bottom of the slides, and if you do have questions about the data, please chat those in, and if we're not able to answer them now, we can certainly follow up later, and we do have our program evaluator who can assist us with follow-up later. All right, so we're going to start with Oregon. And in Oregon, overall, according to the Oregon Diabetes Report, so this report refers to this population as Latino. So that's the other thing in these slides, is I used the term for the that was used in the reporting. So in Oregon, according to the Oregon Diabetes Report, 15% of Latino adults of any race have diabetes, compared to 9.4% overall prevalence for Oregon. So there is a significantly greater risk of having diabetes in Oregon for the Latino population than for the overall population. And in fact, this report shares that Latino populations are diagnosed with diabetes at nearly twice the rate of white non-Hispanic Oregonians. For prediabetes, it's estimated that about 9% of Oregon adults have prediabetes, and we unfortunately don't have a good data source to break this down into specific racial or ethnic populations. We also wanted to include some data on gestational diabetes, because gestational diabetes, when a woman has gestational diabetes during one of her or more of her pregnancies, she is at significantly greater risk of developing type 2 diabetes later in life. So again, in Oregon, using the same report, it was found that 17% of Latina mothers were diagnosed with gestational diabetes, compared to 8% of non-Latino Caucasian mothers. So again, a pretty significant disparity there. Now we're going to move to New Mexico. The data here was a little bit different. So they do have data on prediabetes in New Mexico, because they have a system called IBIS that I am not an expert on, but I'm sure those of you in New Mexico are much more familiar. And I'm going to pause because we have a great comment in the chat. Question is the prediabetes number, the number that have been reported, and not necessarily what percentage is estimated. Yes, so this is based on, for the diabetes report, I would have to go back and look at the actual source for that particular data point, which we can do, but it is in that report, and it would be based on reporting, most likely on BRFIS or census data. So yes, so our guess is that it's probably higher than what is there. So for New Mexico, there is the ability to look at data for prediabetes, and when we ran the data from the IBIS system, we found a pretty close comparison for prediabetes. Similar to the prior comment that was made, there is a question about if this is a matter of underreporting for prediabetes. This is based, I believe, for IBIS on diagnosis of prediabetes. So about a little over 7% for both the Hispanic population in New Mexico, and overall very similar overall in New Mexico. And then amongst people with diabetes, we do see a greater percentage of 13.6% of the Hispanic population has a diagnosis of diabetes, compared to about 10.7% overall. And then similarly, New Mexico, we also pulled some data on gestational diabetes. They have a similar trend of being very close in terms of the percentage of mothers who had gestational diabetes during at least one of their pregnancies. Okay, and then finally for Utah, there's some interesting differences in this data that honestly I can't explain. For prediabetes, same data set as we have for New Mexico using IBIS. The overall prevalence of prediabetes amongst the Hispanic population was 4.9% compared to 6.1% overall in Utah. And then for diabetes, we do see a higher percentage of Hispanics who actually have a diagnosis of diabetes compared to the overall population.
Diabetic people comparison, right? To how can we have much more diabetic people and so smaller pre-diabetic? Yeah, so
I think underreported and probably diagnosing prediabetes is still not consistent across the board. All right, and finally for Utah, the data on gestational diabetes, similarly, we see a higher percentage of Hispanic birthing parents with birth records that indicated gestational diabetes compared to Utah women in general. Okay.
To me now, Tracy, you know what? I want to make a comment here, Tracy, about the gestational diabetes. I liked it very much that Tracy and Maria, thank you, could find this information that included also gestational diabetes. As you remember at the beginning, Tracy said that I'm also a doula. I don't know if everyone knows what is a doula, but the person really who supports the pregnant mothers and the family as well and the baby, but especially the mother during the pregnancy, birth, and then postpartum. And I am really astonished to see here in Oregon how, and you remember the numbers were really high for Oregon, the number of pregnant mothers with gestational diabetes. And as we know, the risk of at least for 5 years after the birth of the baby, it would be 5 years that this mother would be at risk and really high risk, we can say, considering their diets and lack of exercising and everything. As we know now as lifestyle coaches, we learned a lot, right? So this is really something we should be aware, and as much as we can in our cohorts, be there, try to ask also when you are asking your participants, and if they don't want to talk a lot, with the whole group, try to talk with your participants individually and discuss if she, depending on the person, right, if the person wants to discuss a little bit more and find out. I really encourage you to consider this, because even though Oregon looks like it's the highest in diabetes, I would say we are all going to the same way. I mean, unfortunately, the numbers are going higher and higher. Yeah, that's what well, anyways, going then to some specifics that we want to bring to you. And remember, we are really going to learn together more, as we are doing already for this last 10, 15 minutes. So how can we culturally competent lifestyle coaching with the Latino and Hispanic communities learn together is really defining better what is culturally responsive coaching, and also to find and discover potential benefits of a cultural competence lifestyle coaching, as I have been suggesting already, and understand the strategies and cultural approaches that may assure the success of a DPP, either Latino, Latinx, or all this together, right? Engagement, retention, and outcomes. Well, sorry, I need some water. Okay, now, let's see, communication challenges. I don't know how many of you have been there already and trying to understand the question about health literacy, which you are defining here today as the degree of which individuals have the capacity to obtain, process, and understand basic health information and services needed to make appropriate health decisions. So that's just one definition. We might find others, but the really important thing here is to make sure if the person is being able to understand what we are talking, even basic concepts that we might be talking in our cohorts, people might not be that comfortable. If they're not understanding, it's also our responsibility to observe, to realize if you said something to them, if they are really understanding. So once more, and we also have been discussing here, right, Tracy, to do some review to the Spanish version of the DPP to make sure we don't have big words there that are not clear to the people. So, and why? Look at this data here. 62% of Spanish-speaking people have limited health literacy. And it's not here, but I can tell you, I remember we did research already, that throughout the country, I mean, among the Caucasian or other, Caucasian population, 28% only do have problem with health literacy. So 62% for Spanish speaking is really high. We have to remember the acculturation that I was talking, remember the language, remember the dialects. If people have a background as indigenous person, all of that counts. And that's why we have to make sure people are understanding our conversations, right? So I just want to say a culturally competent lifestyle coach can help raise health literacy. I hope you all agree with me. If not, please write down. Let's discuss. Then how to effectively engage Latino, Latinx, and Hispanic populations in DPP? Have you ever thought what would inspire a person to engage in the process of self-care when a disease is not visible at all? That's a question for you. Think a little bit. Let me give you 5 seconds. 10 if you want. But think a little bit if you ever thought why people would have some difficulties to really engage in our program. It's so great, right? We as lifestyle coaches, we always say, oh my gosh, I love this program. I am in love with the program. I can say this myself. And I have been telling this to Dan, I have been talking to John, to everybody. And yes, but why people do not really engage as much as in their self-care? So research, including genetics and other sciences, have proven the risk for chronic disease might be higher for some populations. Diabetes, it is already an epidemic. We all know this, it's just to remind us. Then, epigenetic research and science has proven that the higher incidence of a chronic disease can be the modification of genetics. There are other factors besides genetics that affect our health: the environment, nutrition, and toxic stress. All of these we know already or heard about. There are social determinants of health. Like in Oregon, we have a huge problem with transportation. This is a huge social determinant of health because people cannot access. They don't come to know our programs sometimes. And if you find out, it's because transportation as well. So all these things should be considered, and that's what we are trying to really put in this big word that we say epigenetic. So it's really modifying the genetics. And then let's go specifically, Latino, Latinx, and or Hispanic are among the populations at high risk because of genetics and epigenetics. Still, why is it so difficult to engage people in their self-care, such as the DPP? They do know what epigenetic is? That's one of the questions. Probably not, right? Okay, let's talk a little bit more about engagement. What few strategies that we have been using here in our, the metropolitan area? As I said, Multnomah, Clackamas, and Washington County especially, but we are now going to other counties such as Umatilla. But inviting couples or families to participate at the DPP activities. Have you already done this before? Have you had this opportunity? I can tell you, yes, I had, and was amazing. I was really with passion, working when we had two couples, two families or couples, because actually I would say families, because these couples would bring their kids in like 8 and 10 years old. They couldn't live at home. And I told them, well, I cannot offer childcare, but they brought some activities. The children would be in the side of the room and the parents would be there. So guess if the children were listening something. Of course they are learning too. But the most important thing was the couples. A guy, who was really drinking a lot of soda. He was not really committed by no means. And he was, of course, with pre-diabetes. He was a pre-diabetic person. What happened after a couple of months with his wife, who was there because she also was pre-diabetic, really changing portions and eating better, trying to understand, they would go like, oh my gosh, now I'm getting like conscious why I should not drink soda, because his wife was also helping him. Hey, are you going to take this soda with you today in your lunch? She would ask every day. She shared with us. And then he stopped it. And never ever. He came back having Coca-Cola or soda, whatever kind it is. Approaching churches and their Latino members. Very targeted outreach to someone who is part of the congregation. Well, we are doing this here in Portland, specifically now that we are organizing a new cohort in Portland. And of course, we are looking to do this also in other counties like Umatilla. Probably you have tried that, and I can tell this is a very good way, especially if we have somebody, your lifestyle coach is part of the congregation or is well connected with somebody in the congregation. That helps a lot to engage more people. Another thing, creation of community events. Oh, that was something special. That can be connected with the health of the Latino, Latinx, Hispanic populations. An example, use your Zito session, be creative. What we did in Hermiston a few months ago to really, how we are going to talk about zero session, DPP zero session to mothers, to a group of mothers. And then we thought, because we knew already several were pre-diabetic or with diabetes. So we called them for a celebration of the Mother's Day. And then inside of the whole, dancing, folkloric and things like this, we sneak into our DPP zero session. Of course, in a fun way, but informing and educating. And they were like, at the end, guess what? Wow, we had a list of 15 persons. I want to be part of a DPP cohort. Of course, they didn't know all the details, everything that would entail, but they were clear, wouldn't be one session. That was a long-term thing to do, okay? Good. Oh, this, I know you guys have certainly done some. The kitchen is a cultural and natural learning environment for our Latino adults. Comadres y compadres. So there are, how to translate this into English? Your best friend, your best neighbor, but we say comadres y compadres, y también when you baptize the children of the mother of your friends and bringing their children together. That's why this is there, right? It's not by a chance. We create this to really show how the families do together. And as I mentioned before already, coaching couples and families creates mutual support. And I put this and propose, women don't feel alone. We know what happened in this specific couple that I was mentioning. It was clear, one of them, or actually the two women, they were kind of desperate already, trying to engage their husbands in change the habits. Now telling every day, don't eat all of these, don't eat those bread or these fries and things like this. And then within inside of the cohort, you have to see at the end, it was a beautiful testimony by the parents, by the fathers, not by the mothers. And the mothers, the woman, they were really like laughing and so happy because they could engage their husbands too. So Nia, all of these, actually, I think the majority of those things are in our manuals, right, as lifestyle coaching. But I want to talk a little bit of each of them, how this related to the Latinos, how I found out that they are really, really important. One thing, phone calls or texts, remind participants every week. Yes, if we don't do this, it'll be hard for people to really be there. And that's something I learned from the Stanford class. That's I was mentioning the diabetes and self-management programs. Is really important because then they connect with us as leader. And they are remembering me. No, I might go many times when I send a text. I might go. I'm not sure. But then what? When I was there, they were there. So you'll be surprised if you really keep this as part of your weekly activities. Make sure you have a substitute ready to step in. If you are sick or traveling, don't cancel a session. Yes, I would say. And there was also a learning thing. Down the road, we were like 2 months in one of the cohorts, and then I said, gosh, I should have somebody to be there because I have to go to some other place and travel, even not going in vacation, to vacation. And that was the best thing to do. Like makeup sessions, we know we have to do. How I would suggest the way I learned. I did more individuals. I never have done in groups. I know some people who would do in groups. But what I did mostly was individuals, either in person or over the phone, but not just to repose, that's the best word, to make up, to bring the content of the session that they missed, but try, and also of course about their food log and physical activity log, but also try to find the real reasons for their absence. You are going to learn things you don't even imagine. They will share with you the difficulties they might be facing in the process. Something else, be part of the process. Veggies and fruits. Include your own preferences. Share your reasons and your quality, whatever you want to share with them about why you like certain veggies and fruits. I'm sorry, for the lifestyle coaches who doesn't like much veggies and fruits, no way, we have to change our own habits. Remember that we are role models. We should find, I don't know, at least few veggies and fruits, and also remember the grains. Some grains, at least one grain you must eat and really like it. So when you share yours, it's like, really? I brought people in this cohort, especially this one that I'm thinking now, that to eat certain things they wouldn't eat. They knew, I really don't know how to cook that. Share recipes. That's about a part of the Latino community. We love, the women, they love to share recipes. And even the guys, they were there talking about the licuados, the batidos, and my wife is doing like these smoothies, blah, blah, blah. And she did, I don't like that, but then I add this thing and now I like more. They was just like this, so share. Also, we are experts. Share your own experience, do some research, be resourceful and knowledgeable, not only the DPP manual. Why I'm saying this? Well, I have a story that I really want to share you guys because this is going to be good for anybody, not just Latinos. But I had one Latino woman, right, Latina. She, since the beginning she came, she said, wow, I don't think I'm going to lose any pounds. Maybe 1 or 2, because I have been doing everything that I could and I am not getting anywhere. Because since I started this problem with my, the thyroids, I never was able to lose any weight. On the contrary, I've been gaining. And therefore, gosh, how am I going to commit this woman to do, to lose some weight? I am in trouble. As a lifestyle coach, I'm in trouble, right? So I started there, let's think like this together, thinking the minimum of the percentage you try to, and then after that's like a few weeks after, she kept saying the same thing. But no, I have to find something else to help her and help myself. Then my partner there, he helped me to find a nice article about thyroids and explaining that is how many myths we have about thyroids. And this woman, she not just read, and together, we all read this together that night, I remember, but she took home a copy because she wants to keep reading and rethinking again and again. Well, guess what? She was the one who lost more weight than anybody else. That was like 22, if I'm right, pounds. Was an amazing result, I can tell you. Do your research a little bit is for a special case you see there. Also, do your homework, of course, besides content and knowledge, be a role model. Try to be the role model yourself in everything, not just eating. Oh, yes, physical activity. Are you really going to that gym you said you were going to go that day? Try to do a little bit. If not the gym, at home. Whatever, do yourself. Don't expect they do everything without having you engaging in the program as well. Storytelling, that's what Tracy asked me, right, Tracy? Sandra, what storytelling? You know, it's like this. Every session should be guided by their stories. And then I said, not only the manual stories. Why? They have great stories in the manual. They created that, right? They put them, you know, in the handouts. Wonderful. But allow them to talk, encourage them to talk about their own stories. Oh, anything in this story, remind yourself. Then all of a sudden they start talking. And there was not I wasn't doing therapy, right? But it was a really thing that, you know, they were sharing in front of the others without concerns. And then the other one would be maybe a little bit more, you know, introverted, shy, doesn't want to talk, start talking. And if not this session, the next one, always encouraging. And lifestyle coach stories, yes, sharing your own challenges. Not every class, don't take their time, of course, the time is for them. But once in a while, bring your own, be humble, don't be concerned, and demonstrate that you have been there too, okay? What else? A little bit more support material. Use motivational videos in Spanish. Seek out indigenous and other countries' videos too. Don't forget, you know, the diversity of your group, again, Latinx, indigenous people, Hispanic, Latinx, everybody. But yes, there are great Spanish videos in Spanish already about food, about physical activity, and even these, you know, this program Walk It Is, who knows? I know that Lavinia knows. I don't know how many people have been using. Walk It Is a great program in Spanish, Camine con Gusto, by the Arthritis Foundation, but it's supported by Oregon State University here in Oregon. Certainly in your state, somebody, some university might be supporting as well. Be a source of support for participants. Yes, be there, you know, any moment. If they need to talk a little bit more, be there after, you know, a session, or try to talk over the phone later on, but show that you are there. You know, if something, of course, is more like their emotions, if you might realize, oh my gosh, this person might be going through some, you know, hard process of stress, or even can be, you know, some kind of or some level of depression, whatever, then you indicate then to somebody, and don't let this go. It's important. And be willing to share your vulnerability, as we already mentioned, but that is fundamental. So now, finishing, engaging and committing everyone to self-care. How do you take advantage of the diversity of Latino, Latinx, Hispanic, indigenous participants to enhance their experience and support them to needed lifestyle change? How would you do this? I want to ask you for a few seconds thinking about this as we are ending here. And be confident that, yes, you can support them to avert their pre-diabetes, okay? Don't be concerned, but think really carefully about the diversity and how this is important that we can use in our favor, not against, you know, the whole program. Anything you want to write down in the chat as well, please do so. Any ideas you might have about diversity, okay? So that's it. What do you think? Please share with us. Gracias. Thank you. Sayonara. Whatever. No. I don't. Please help us with other languages.
Thank you, Sandra. That was wonderful. So feel free to chat in any questions you have for Sandra. We do have a couple of minutes, or comments or thoughts. Just a reminder that you can always check out our website here at healthinsight.org/our diabetes prevention initiative. We also are now on Facebook if you are on Facebook. And we have a help desk email. If you're not quite sure where to start or who to ask, you can shoot us an email there and we are happy to help get you connected. And did you, oh, let me get one other, oh, here we go. So we have a printout of the slides, yes. So we will, we can send these follow-up, correct, Maria? Okay, so we will be able to post these or get them out in a follow-up to those that participated.